So the difference is quite obvious when you make this side-by-side comparison. You actually have to pay a little more attention with the IONIQ 9 because welcome to CarSceneKorea. I introduce newly released Genesis Hyundai and Kia cars. And as you saw from the thumbnail, the cars I have behind me today is 2026 Hyundai all-new Palisade and 2026 Hyundai IONIQ 9. And there are a lot of similarities and differences between these two cars, and I will tell you all about these two in this video, especially if you are debating whether you should get yourself a Palisade or IONIQ 9. Let's start with the similarities between these two cars. The cars are both a flagship SUV from Hyundai, and this Palisade of course being the flagship vehicle of ICE, internal combustion engine cars, that is offered in two engine variations, 2.5 liter gasoline inline engine, and second, together with the hybrid motor. Moving on to the IONIQ 9, this car is also a flagship SUV of Hyundai, but it is IONIQ. If you didn't know, IONIQ is the EV brand of Hyundai, which is portrayed by these pixel lights. So you will see pixels inside out of IONIQ cars, and IONIQ 9 is no exception. So there are DRL, daytime running lights, in cubes and pixels, and both of the cars give an amazing welcome light ceremony, but two are quite different because the IONIQ 9 has the pixelated seamless horizon lamp, and coming to this Palisade, there is also the seamless horizon lamp found right here. So I will insert an amazing B-roll we got with the welcome light ceremony both on the Palisade and IONIQ 9. Tell me in the comment below which one you prefer better, but I honestly have to give it to IONIQ 9 because of the lights being composed together with the pixels and cubes. There are just so many variations that IONIQ 9 could come up with when it comes to the welcome light ceremony. The car being ICE and an EV, they are very different. So that was me stating the obvious, but let me show you one by one up close look of how these two cars differ, both exterior and interior. Let's go. So I will be going over both similarities and differences here and there, but there are just going to be a lot of differences due to the nature being. Maybe I parked the car a little too tight between the two. So let me just squeeze in just right here. So looking at the A-pillar where the windshield is located, I mean, you don't need me to explain these, but it's so obvious that IONIQ 9's A-pillar is much more slanted, steep, and has that gentle curvature all throughout the vehicle, whereas the Palisades has the typical SUV A-pillar, if you will. So there is this wide curved bonnet, but then there is the windshield striking right up, whereas IONIQ 9's is much more sleek all throughout. And it is much more obvious from this angle. I will show it to you right here. I mean, if you just look at this A-pillar portion, it almost is as steep as a sedan. I mean, well, let's look at the K3 for instance. So look at that angle that K3 has versus the Casper, which is the Inster for the electric version overseas. So Casper's is pretty much just like what the Palisade's angle is like compared to this K3. So that is the difference that I am talking about here. IONIQ 9 having that sleek design, and Palisade going with the traditional SUV design. What are the pros of IONIQ 9's steep A-pillar? Well, it reduces the air resistance, contributing to lower CD, coefficient of drag, which this IONIQ 9 achieved a ridiculous number, 0.28, if I recall correctly. That truly is a stunning number when it comes to this behemoth full-size EV SUV. And it does not only get translated to longer driving range, but it contributes to NVH, noise, vibration, and harshness. So if you lower every digit, 100th, if not 1,000th digit of that CD, it gets converted into a lot more things, pretty much everything when it comes to this EV. Speaking of which, there is also this active air flap, which will open and close accordingly. And that one, of course, contributes huge switch to CD. And Palisade, although it's not an EV, therefore there's not that much of concentration and focus on the CD when it comes to the ICE cars. But Palisade also gets active air flap, as you can see right here. But the difference here is that IONIQ 9, for the first time ever, it has the dual motion active air flap, meaning it will open up and get tucked in inwards once again. So when the car is actually in operation, it looks much more sleek compared to the original active air flaps we've been having throughout the latest Hyundai Motor Group cars. You guys know what I mean. If you have driven IONIQ 5 or EV6 for that matter, there is that flap opening up, and you can actually see that flap opened and staying right there, whereas you won't see any of that with the IONIQ 9. I mean, I can go on and on about the front look, but for detailed design and look of each car, I have tons of videos on these two cars already on my channel dating a few months ago. I even caught the Palisade before the production model came out, so make sure you watch those videos for in-depth review. Of course, I really wanted to give you this real-world side-by-side comparison so you get the feeling of how big and how similar and how different they are all at the same time. So let's take a look at the wheels too. Both of the cars are offered in 20-inch wheels, having 255/50 20-inch for this Palisade with Majesty X Solus tire from Gumho, that's Korean brand. So it is focused on the ride and comfiness, the coziness of the ride inside the car. Whereas the IONIQ 9s has Michelin Promissory Tour A/S with the size of 285/45 21-inch wheels and tires. It's bigger, it has much more expensive meaty tires on. The IONIQ 9's tire has noise reducing tires as well, so there is sound absorber inside the tire, whereas the Palisade is just a regular tire, if you will. Just so you know, you can also choose all the way up to 21-inch for the Palisade as well. However, it will not come with the sound absorber inside. It could differ depending on your market, so double check with your local dealership, but that is based on this Korean domestic model. So you know these two cars are the family SUV, so what is the most important thing? It is definitely that trunk. So let's go take a look at the rear of these two cars. Getting started with the rear design, again, the pixel lights do extend all the way to the rear. I mean, it is pixels everywhere, starting with the tail light, the blinkers, the third brake light, as well as even the reverse light and the reflectors. So it is just pixels and cubes everywhere with the IONIQ 9. So squares and rectangulars. However, look how curvy and streamlined this IONIQ 9 is. If you look at the rear of this design, which I of course covered in my first impression video, it has that boat tail design. So both of the ends actually kind of comes together towards a point at the end. So giving that aerodynamic as well as aesthetically pleasing design, meaning IONIQ 9 is both functional and practical all at the same time. When it comes to Palisade, it has the good old traditional SUV, as you can see. I mean, as much as I want to say both of the cars are SUVs, family SUVs, they just look very different looking at the profile. So the curvature that I told you about when it comes to the IONIQ 9 versus having that bold straight line stretching all the way to the A-pillar from the end right here. And I like this matte silver finish towards the end with that robust spoiler on the back. And just so you know, flip this upside down, that is the rear diffuser at the bottom. So that is the design I actually do really like on Palisade. Enough of design. I've been going over and over about this in my previous video, so please, please, please check that videos out. So the trunk button is right here. Press on that. So a couple of things I want to point out immediately, that is, both of the trunks are quite massive, but IONIQ 9's trunk actually does stretch out further due to the design. I mean, you have to be extra cautious when you park this full-size, large-size vehicle, but you actually have to pay a little more attention with the IONIQ 9 because having that longer tailgate. And next up, I see the difference right here with the trunk lift. So look at the angle and where it is attached. Just like the one that we saw from Santa Fe, IONIQ 9s is actually hidden right in between the taillight and this trunk compartment. Therefore, it just fits very sleek. It is not sticking out. It's not creating any dead space, if you will. However, there's a slightly somewhat of that space with the Palisade, but to be honest, they're just different. It doesn't bother me at all. The mechanism, how they work is essentially the same. However, I have to give it to the IONIQ 9 having this sleek lift. All right, so the trunk and the third row seat of the IONIQ 9, as you can see, the IONIQ 9 is only offered with 2-seater option on the third row seat, whereas it is 3-seater option for the Palisade. And therefore, you might think that the space is actually larger on the IONIQ 9. However, it's the other way around. The width of the IONIQ 9 when it comes to the third row seat is actually narrower than the Palisades because the Palisade has 3-seater on the third row seat. When you pull these two up, as you can see, it's fully automated. The car will push the second row seat a little forward in order to lift up the third row seat, as you can see. So both of the seats erect. Let me show this to you. So, I mean, you can see it clearly on the video already, right? We don't see that much of a wheelhouse obstructing the seat. Whereas, I mean, it's more obvious because the car has light two-tone colors right here. It is much more narrower on the IONIQ 9, and you feel all of that when you actually sit inside. But you see, we actually do have to consider the fact that the third row seat is not necessarily to accommodate passengers every single time, but if you are planning on having people frequently on the third row seat, Palisade will be the winner, no doubt. And let's wait and see if this is going to differ when it comes to the second and the first row seat of each car. So let's check out the second row seat, the leg room of each car. And I do have the Palisade driver's seat as how I would usually drive. I got plenty of space on the second row seat, and this is not even the seat tilted back all the way to the rear, as you can see. You see, I just vanish, right? So this is the level of inclination that you can get on the second row seat, together with this ridiculous amount of leg room on the second row seat. So there's a button right here for your easy entry towards the third row seat, and the bottom rail is manual. That way, the people on the third row seat can escape in case of emergencies. That is the reason why the bottom rails are all manual like this. It's not Hyundai saving costs, but it's for safety. So let's hop in, and when I do, this handle comes in super handy and practical. You can hold on to it and easily climb inside to the third row seat of the Palisade just like this. And I can also tilt the third row seat like this. It is fully motorized, as you saw. Let me squeeze in to this side right here, and do keep in mind that the second row seat is actually pushed back all the way on this Palisade, and also tilt the third row seat just like so. So it is pushed all the way back for the second row seat, and I can actually squeeze and fit inside. Just push this a little forward. An adult can easily travel on the third row seat of this Palisade, no problem. Let's go check out the IONIQ 9. And even when getting out, this handle comes in quite handy. So push this back up and push the button again. The seat will go into its original position just like so. And of course, you can fully fold the second row and the third row seat as well. So the second row seat of the IONIQ 9 together with the third row seat, let's go check it out. You can see the car came in with the captain seats on the second row seat. So it's not a fair game, to be precise, when it comes to the second row seat. But, you know, the seat having the captain seats, it is much more comfy. But you can still get the same captain seats for the Palisade as well. So let me push the seat all the way to the rear and tilt it. I mean, it's going to tilt a whole lot more, I think, because due to the nature being, but let's keep it this way. Never mind, there's no way I'm gonna be able to fit right there. So I need to pull the seat back up just a little bit. It is pushed back all the way, so let me just try. I am really trying. I mean, I really have to cram myself right here, as you can see. So I did tilt the seat all the way to the rear, but it's not helping all that much. I really crammed myself to make it fit on the third row seat. So you guys be the judge. I knew it before I tried it out. You're seeing it for yourself right now. And this is not going to differ all that much, even if you get the 7-seater for the IONIQ 9. However, the good thing about IONIQ 9 is that the seats will be completely flat when you fold the second and third row seat, whereas it is slightly at an angle for the Palisade. The Palisade's third row seat is actually taller than the second row seat. I mean, you can see it obviously on the video. The third row seat is actually sitting higher up from the second row seat, whereas it is almost nearly identical when it comes to the IONIQ 9. So the difference is quite obvious when you make this side-by-side comparison. So if you need to consider the ride comfort of the third row seat, it is the Palisade, no doubt. And that is also put together with the ride and drivability of this vehicle as well. Both of the cars, the third row seat is the worst seat when it comes to the ride comfort, because the third row seat literally sits right on top of the rear wheel, where it will be getting a lot of residual shocks and the impact upon the speed bumps and uneven roads and pavements and whatnot. But based on my past experience, the ride offered, strictly talking about the third row seats, Palisade is hands down the winner. And I believe it has a lot to do with road preview suspension system, which is offered on this all-new Palisade for the first time ever from Hyundai Cars, which, interestingly enough, the IONIQ 9 did not get. So the ride is amazing on Palisade. I should say it's quite different between the two due to the nature being of the vehicle type, this car being an EV with heavy battery packs underneath and having monstrous power and performance compared to this tiny inline 4 2.5 liter engine. The IONIQ 9 is still a beast, being the first flagship EV SUV with the swivel seats on the second row seat. That experience was one of a kind, and it is the only car that you can get with a swivel seat from Hyundai Car. Well, I mean, let alone Kia 2. There's only EV9 up until today. So hopefully you found what you were looking for between these two cars in today's video. I'm sorry because I have to rush things through. I don't have much time with these two cars. So if you have any unanswered questions, drop it in the comment below. I'll try to get back to you to best of my ability, as I always do. Don't forget to like and subscribe CarSceneKorea if you did, and I will see you in the next video. And also, do check out the ASMR walk-around video of these two cars, which will be shortly uploaded. All right, until then, I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.